Commissioners to order for Tuesday, August 7th, 2018. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me for a short prayer. Heavenly Father, first of all, we thank you for the bit of rain we got. We're asking for a little bit more if you can see your way to do that. Congratulations to the folks opening the Attica Fair this morning. May they stay safe. Please give us the wisdom to do what's in the best interest of those we represent, and make certain, please, that those people that are protecting us, you watch over in a special way. We ask all this through your Son. Amen. Amen. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Here.
Commissioner Stacy? Here. Commissioner Thomas?
Here.
Okay, accept a motion to approve the digital audio video recording of the previous board session held Tuesday, July 31st.
So moved?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes. So we have the Safe and Healthy Ohio Amendment on the agenda.
Do you want to go first?
Pardon me?
Do you want to what?
Yes, I will. I just want to see if there's anything to add in the agenda as we're going here. We have a proclamation regarding the heroin we need to add. We've got a bounty in the county discussion we need to have. Anything else for the agenda?
Yeah, I just have a couple updates.
Okay. All right, well then let's begin with the mental health and recovery and TCAP funding update.
All right, good morning. I do have some extra information for the public. I didn't expect that many people to attend. But each of you guys got information. We did receive the TCAP funds approximately 12 months ago, not quite. They have been, I believe October of 2017 is when we received the grant. As a county, we are expecting to receive a total of $268,576. The funds were divided between the courts, the Sheriff's Office, and the Mental Health and Recovery Service Board. Seneca County courts are utilizing the funds, their portion of the funds, which is 50%, to contract with Oriana House Incorporated for a specialized probation officer, which they hire Ron Green. So that's why Ron have joined us to tell us a little bit about what he's doing.
Marcia, why don't you go over what TCAP is, because we have a number of people here that aren't usually here.
Correct. So TCAP is really to serve the felony 5 population with a drug offense. Instead of sending them to a state prison, we keep them in the local community to offer them treatment, as well as the judges, they have the discretionary if they feel necessary to place them in a county jail for a period of the time. But really the goal of it is to place them into a program, to have a specialized probation officer see them or report to make sure they rehabilitate and stay safe in the community instead of sending them to a state prison.
Thank you.
And for that grant, again, the county received $268,000. Ron, would you want to share a little bit about, I know that the sheriff is here. The sheriff is really utilizing the funds, their portion for the personal cost and electronic monitoring and the works.
Community correction.
Thank you. Community corrections program. So things they have done in the past, really. But again, I know the courts has hired, they contract with Oriana House to hire specialized probation officers to really oversee this F5 population into TCAP.
Hi, I'm Ron Green. I was lucky enough to be hired as the drug intensive probation officer. And our program is called DIPO, D-I-P-O, Drug Intensive Probation Officer, just like Maritza said. I just wanted to give you just a real quick outline of some of the numbers, how things are going in the program. It's going very well. Judge Shuff has been a big advocate of the program so far, and as well as Judge Kelblake. Total number of offenders that I have assigned to my program right now is 23. 11 of those are assigned by the courts to the DIPO program and then given to the PIVOT program, which is the drug court that everybody probably has heard about and talked about and so forth. So they're assigned to PIVOT if in the event of an early discharge from PIVOT, they come right back to my program to finish out their generally a 3-year probationary period. Total number of offenders that I have right now assigned to Crossway are 3. when they're done with their CBCF time there, they will come to my program, or they will be reporting to me to finish out their probationary time. I have 2 offenders that have moved up in the phase. I have a 3-phase system. Phase 1 being the most stringent reporting. You report at least twice a week. I have 2 offenders on daily reporting, and as things go, as they complete their intensive outpatient therapy and things like that, and their programs, they they phase up, actually phase down. They can report less once a week. So I have 2 people on that phase 2 reporting. Urine drug screens for phase 1 are at least 2 times a week. Some folks I'm doing almost every day, it seems. So, and it's random, the random drug test. A lot of county services that my program uses, we use Rigel, which is also operated by Oriana House. Firelands, if I would happen to get an offender on my program that has previously went through Firelands for a mental health provider, drug and alcohol counseling, and if they choose, I will keep them on Firelands scheduling. Summit Psychological Associates, which is associated with Oriana House. They have an office right in our building at 65 St. Francis Avenue for mental health services. So that's really convenient that I have that service in the same building. In fact, the guy's office is right next to mine, so it's very, very nice. Northwest Ohio Behavioral Reporting Service. It's called NOBARS. This is a reporting service, kind of like a daily reporting service that they have in Norwalk, Ohio, and Fremont, Ohio. That company is also used by, or owned by, Oriana House. And New Housing Ohio, I don't know if everybody's heard of it, but I have 2 people in, which is called The Cottage right now. It's a kind of like a halfway house setup, and it's located at 104 North State Route 101, just outside the city limits of Tiffin. So we do home visits, or I do home visits for my program. I also assist the Pivot Drug Court probation officer with doing her home visits, as well as curfew checks. At least once a month we're out doing curfew checks, home visits. We do off and on all the time. No really set number on how often we do that. So since I was hired in January 2nd of this year, I have accrued 174 hours of different types of training relating to the drug-intensive probation. And those include EPICS, ORAS, case planning, behavioral intervention, skill building, motivational interviewing, and a lot of that training that I have had so far this year are mandatory hours set by the Ohio Supreme Court, and they're provided by the Ohio Judicial College. So, but the program is going very well. It's growing and growing all the time. I think our cap, what has been discussed, is going to be around 30 or 40 offenders, because it's intensive in nature, and I'm the only probation officer. That's why we want to keep it lower, so I can spend more time with the offenders. So. Judge Shuff, anything?
I'm only here for questions. We have a war, and if anyone doesn't realize it, I'm sorry. We have a war, and it's called opioid crisis. And we're in a war, and we need every plane, tank, armament we can get, and this is one of them. It's not the only one. Pivot is not the only one. Crossway is not the only one. Prison is always an option. It's not the only one. We have to have all of them. And we're fighting this, and it is a constant battle. But I really believe we're heading in the right direction. I believe the battle is going well. We have setbacks, but we have a lot of successes. And I think it's going well. And I'm pleased with how everything's going. All this has been done by grant money. Not one penny, so to speak, has from the county general fund. So it's all been done with grant money. We are in a process of obtaining, I think, another grant coming. If there's money available out there, we're going to try to obtain it to keep the battle going and give us more tools to fight the battle with. So I'll be glad to answer any questions. I'm only here, this gentleman's on the front line, he's on the front line.
Yeah, we appreciate the work on this, Your Honor. Do you know how many of the F5s have been diverted into the program?
Absolutely.
And how many have been sent?
Only from my court I can tell you.
Yeah.
I can tell you how many F5s have been directed under to DIPO.
Felony 5's the easiest felony.
It's
right?
the lowest grade
felony.
felony, I should make that. Felony 1s are murders, serious stuff. Then there's 2, then there's 3, 4. 5 is the lowest step before a misdemeanor, which is in municipal court then. It is an F5. Most of these are possession, or it could be trafficking, but they're only trafficking little amounts to support their habit. They are addicts. We know this. We have all the reports. We have the drug task force involved. We have law enforcement involved. We obtain pre-sentence reports that are 40 pages long about someone. So we know who are the dealers that need to be sent to prison and who are addicts that are just possessing or selling a little bit. I always liken it to buying 10 rolls of toilet paper and you sell 5 to get support so you can buy some more, and it's just, anyway. We have on felony 5s 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Set mine 17. Counting.
17 have
I've diverted to the DIPO.
out of,
Of how many?
yeah.
I have probably seen just this year, and this just started this
Yeah.
year. We're probably at my court itself, close to 100 felonies so far this year.
Fives.
So
About
probably
fives.
1 out of 5 maybe.
But as
Roughly.
correct, as I told you guys earlier, we received the grant October or so of
Sure.
2017. However, run wasn't hired until January 2nd. So really, we have been just a little over half a year full speed operations.
Well, part of the opiate task force meets once a month as well and combines all the community leaders that can to know a little bit about it. And I think, one of the things that we said, and one of the things that's important is that before you can solve a problem, you gotta admit that you have one. Just like
We have one.
drugs, and we have admitted as a county that we have a problem. And we need to find a way to resolve it. And all these things are working in tandem. As Steve said, there's just a lot of tools that we need to use and continue to use. I want to speak just a minute about the PIVOT program and the fact that it's really the only one in the state.
Because of House Bill 354, we are the only multi-jurisdictional drug court in the state of Ohio, which means all adults, whether they're in misdemeanor court, which is municipal court with Judge Rep or Judge Kelby and I, and common pleas, which are felonies. Because what we found as we put this program together, many of the same people could have charges in both municipal court and common pleas court. It's the same drug. It's no different if you're in municipal court or common pleas court, same drug, heroin or opiate usage. And it's the same issues. Why they're using. Is it mental health? Is it whatever it may be? Same issues. So the judges combined to create one drug recovery court called PIVOT, which is Participating Victory of Transition. And we are the first, we're a pilot project. We're given 5 years by the state legislature to see how it works. But we meet weekly, every Thursday, 9 o'clock. Our planning meeting starts at 10 o'clock, court starts. And we have 30-some participants in it. We'll grow to 60. 60 is about all we can handle at this time. But again, it started March 15th after years of planning. And it is going well. It's one more tool in the battle.
As we get some successes, I think we need to catalog those, because we're going to need to take that to the state and ask for a
Oh,
continuation.
we have to
of
keep statistics on everything
the-
for the grants.
Yeah.
Yeah, to keep
To
this.
get these TTAP funds extended,
Yeah.
because
We're
I
keeping
think it's a
statistics on
2-year
everything.
grant, and, there's going to be people in the middle of the program we're going to have to.
As you know, with any grant, there's always the strings, and one of them is giving statistics as to how the money was spent. We are doing that.
Yeah.
We'd like to know also.
And just as importantly in Seneca County, and from the state standpoint, if this PIVOT program works, they can apply that model to other counties, and hopefully that will continue to have
There are
success.
several counties that have expressed an interest in doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think they're waiting to see how this goes, because it's unique to have all judges together in one drug recovery program. So. Any other questions?
Do they have anyone going in to schools, elementary schools, and talking to kids to try and stop this? It used to be high school, now it's grade school. Do they have someone going in and giving these kids cold, hard facts of what their life's going to be or what their life isn't going to be?
Yes, we do have programs for the schools in the county. It's really up to the superintendent or the school administration to choose if they allow a program to come in or not. We do have a prevention coalition, which is CARSA in Seneca County, which they are in touch with all the schools in the district. And some schools, they receive programming that maybe goes weekly for the entire school year, or are some schools that just choose to have one-time speakers, where they maybe organize an event, they have one-time speakers to cover different topics. So it really depends on the school, but I would say that all of them has the tool, or all of them already had speakers on these topics.
What age group were they targeting at the NCOESC meeting when they had all the kids come in? Remember the age group?
Or elementary and
Elementary.
yeah.
So they have a program out there as well. Yeah.
And right now we're trying to actually develop an after-school program, what to do with the children during summertime. Well, I'm not gonna break the news for other schools, but some schools gonna come out with some announcements here soon.
Dave?
Just a minute, I got a call.
Oh, excuse me.
Sorry, Mike.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Judge Shuck said that it's a war, and every war has a reason for starting, and every war has a reason for ending, and you have to have an end game to it. Now, that's probably part of it, is what you just talked about. But do you see somewhere where we can end this war by educating some parents, or I understand going into
What was the
schools.
second part of the, you said education, and then you said what?
Well, is
What'd
there
you
some
say?
way to go after
What
the
did you say?
parents?
Parent.
There's
Parents.
parents out there that need to understand how important it is, because they're with the kids every day. The teacher or the
First of all, you have to be a parent.
program might meet them once every 6 months or something like that.
Right.
But there's got to be some way society has to address that issue, because if it's a war and it has no end game, it'll continue.
Many people we see have not had parents. Let's just be honest. It's a war, so I'm going to be brutally honest.
Well, I
The
agree.
parents have never stood up, never showed up. I have these participants in, you know how many parents I've seen? One.
Yeah, yeah.
And one
I'm
grandparent.
sure that's the case. But there
And
has
the
to
reason is they haven't showed up. And maybe because of the drug usage, the ties have been strained or even cut. But I'm just saying, part of the problem starts at home.
Right.
You know, you can't always blame, the educational system, and it
Well, you can
starts at
throw
home.
money at it to help them some, because
But a lot of it
not
also
all
is,
the money works.
yeah, a lot of it's mental health issues. And we're addressing the mental health issues. What we found is there's a lot of over-prescribing of medications. And I'm not just talking painkillers, Adderall. I never saw so many people on Adderall in my life. So there's a lot of over-prescription of medications that we're addressing with the pharmacy board. Well, that's what the Opioid Addiction Task Force had, pharmacy board in, talking to them, explaining what doctors we think, based on our experience, may be over-prescribing, so they can talk to them. We're trying to come up with ways to address it. But the bottom line is, how do you get parents to be parents?
But the thing that I'm trying to point out is that all of us grew up in the 60s, or most of us, and we had a lot of drug influence and so forth. But we had disciplines to tell us what was right and wrong, too.
We have parents.
We had a parent, and I think that we need to work on that end of it to try to get the next generation. This generation may be lost already. We got to go after the next generation and figure out how to help the parents educate themselves and know you got to keep your kids away from this stuff.
Well, we're hoping the people and I'll let Ron talk then, the people we're participating with, many of them are parents, so we're hoping And one of the tools we use is, do you want your child to be like you? You know, you use that as an incentive. One of many, but one of them. And of course they don't, or if they, and so perhaps by changing them, we do change the next direction, but it starts at home, number one. Right.
One of the programs that we use for the DIPO program as well as the drug court, the Pivot program, is called Family Matters. That brings the families of these offenders and drug addicts in to educate the parents and to help them cope with, you know, a child or somebody that is addicted to heroin or opiates or what have you. But that's a very, very good program. It's once a week. They have it in the evening, and they have it out there at our building at 65 St. Francis Avenue. So when you talk about parents, you know, we are trying to at least include the parents that are involved with has kids in the two programs. So
we
far,
have-
and that's very successful. The program's very successful.
And we have parents that come and talk who've lost a child. And one of them was, I mean, you could hear a pin drop because he showed a picture of his daughter and then he showed, here's what's left of her, which was a capsule. And then if that wasn't bad enough, then he says, here's my son and here's his capsule. He lost 2 children to heroin. So, you know, you get education out, you get the programming, you get the counseling. We fight it
Do
all
you
the
have a
time.
handle on where the heroin's coming from?
Well, yeah. Yeah,
You know where it's coming from?
yeah, Mexico, most of it. And for the one even worse than heroin, it's fentanyl. It's coming almost exclusively from China, through Mexico. Now they're using the United States Postal Service to send it by mail. Right, Sheriff?
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Seneca Industrial and Economic Development Corporation. I think they're in the hallway, in the green room here. You guys can And we have enough refreshments for you.
Flattered, we got so many people. This is wonderful. We got happier news than the last presentation.
Grab those chairs if you want.
Just getting it clear.
So while Nikki is setting up, so what we've done is twice a year we do a briefing to our members on what we thought we'd do to both the Seneca County Commission and also to Tiffin City Council, which will be on the 20th, is kind of bring it. It's going to be an abbreviated version. Commissioner Kirchner is on our board and executive committee is very aware of what's going on. Commissioner Thomas attended our member briefing and Commissioner Stacy and I have frequent discussions, but we thought it would be useful to kind of bring this up, kind of mid-year update as far as some of the things that we're seeing, and not so much a kind of like our annual meeting, not so much a recap of all the projects, but more like what's going on and strategically, how are we addressing challenges. So we thought that would be of interest, so that's the reason. We know we have about 15 minutes, so we're gonna we got the entire team here today. We got our downtown Tiffin manager, Amy Reinhardt. We got our communications manager, Katie Lang, our development manager, Bryce Riggs, and myself. And we're getting set up.
Yeah, if you just move a little over that would be
Always getting in the way. Someone would say some things never change. Okay, so up first is going to be our communications manager, Katie Lang, to give you an update on our communications.
All right, so I'm going to jump right in with some social media stats. So far this year on our Facebook page, we have a total of 6,108 likes, 157 posts, a reach nearing 500,000, and we've made 777,000 impressions. So the reach is the amount of people that we are reaching with our posts, and the impressions is the amount of times that it's displayed on the screen. So sometimes you'll have multiple. And below that, you can see kind of the numbers for 2017 as well. In February, we launched the Downtown Tiffin page. So far, that has 567 likes, 77 posts, reach of 33,000, and 52,000 impressions. On Twitter, we've got 351 followers, 75 of those new in 2018, 815 profile visits, and 78,000 impressions, which once again is how many times it's displayed on someone's screen. Sorry for the formatting here. SenecaSuccess.com, our website that houses all of our blog posts and press releases. So far this year, we've done 73 posts. We've got 35,000 visitors and 51,000 views, and you can see under there sort of a year-over-year comparison.
That's a reminder to always think ahead.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there.
Our website is so big, it's outgrowing the
Yes,
slide.
clearly. Every day.
Every day.
Press releases so far this year, we've done 23, all combined, and that has resulted in 40 to 45 news stories, print, online, radio, and video news stories. And then finally, the community branding initiative has been a key focus of mine so far this year. We rolled this out in April. If you'll recall, we came and presented to you all. We actually just met with all the county department heads as well to offer whatever involvement they would like to have with the brand. And we're also working with the branding firm, Upward Brand Interactions. In a continuing capacity, we're having them design some collateral for us, everything from office stationery to the Welcome to Tiffin signs and everything in between. We've also got license agreements in place that local businesses can request if they would like to sell merchandise with the branding. Does anybody have any questions? Great, I'm going to turn it over to our development manager, Bryce Riggs.
Good afternoon. It's Bryce Riggs. I'm the development manager for SIDEC. My role within the organization is that I oversee and manage, I'd say, the majority of the projects throughout the county and the city of Tiffin. First, we're going to talk about a few projects from this past year and projects that are underway. The first is Tiffin Point. Happy to report at the end of July, fully occupied, just under 100 residents. Beautiful facility located behind Tim Hortons McDonald's and really added extra depth to the West Market Street district. And I've been through the facility the last couple months, and things are looking really great. Next is the groundbreaking ceremony for the $3.1 million investment. This is the infrastructure, the US 224 that supported the Trilogy project. I think a lot of people have seen this map. This is the road work that's going to be completed by the end of this year, coming off of West Market Street, as well as US 224. These are improvements to Township Road 18, County Road 1, which is the Airport Industrial Park, as well as Township Road 54, which I think are great improvements to US 224 for the county. Here's one of the improvements. So it included the widening of US 224 in certain areas. And this is the north end, the Progress Parkway North, which is located between Reineke Family Dealerships and Aldi. They included lots of rock work. So this is them actually selling through the rock, and this was a few weeks ago. And then this is, again, the current status of the Progress Parkway North. And this is the pad for Trilogy. They tell me that the footers are going to be in. I think during this week they're working on footers and getting ready for the winter already, which is scary. The mall site. So this is kind of an area that we pointed out at the SIDEC annual meeting in March of where we see a lot of movement and things happening. The first was the relocation of the mall to be in line with Progress Parkway North. It'll eventually have a light on West Market Street, which we see as assisting with development, and the mall owners have communicated that's actually has been a selling point for future development. Just this last week, we actually announced $1.3 million investment, Planet Fitness, which I think is really exciting. There was a need in the market. Folks have communicated that to us, and we've been working with Planet Fitness over the last 6 months or so. A lot of it was finding the appropriate franchise owner to fill that need in the market, and we're excited. Mark, who's the franchise owner, owns several different locations throughout Northwest Ohio, and he's excited for our community. From there, this is the car wash, the Magic Tunnel Car Wash. This picture was a few weeks ago. They've actually started construction, and footers are in right now, working over the weekend to get that taken care of. And the construction season for them is about 3 months, so you'll see this actually up before you know it. Kikyu Japanese the Fusion Steakhouse, located in the old East Chicago space. Been working with them on some suppression issues. Expect them to open, I'd probably say next 6 months or less. And then Panda Express, which we announced not too long ago, will be in kind of where the old entrance was to the Tiffin Mall site. Expected to break ground in October and be open early 2019. So we've seen a lot of development at Tiffin Mall site, giving folks opportunities to keep our sales tax local, which is always good, giving them opportunities. Harbor Freight, a lot of work has been done on that within Westgate, and then the Heidelberg University France Hall project. David and I actually went down to Columbus to support and meet with the folks, the decision makers, regarding this project, and we worked with the City of Tiffin and City Council to expand the community reinvestment area to offer this support for the project, and so they'll be moving forward next year on this project. Some initiatives I'd like to talk about. First, yesterday, the City of Tiffin, actually no, the Tiffin City Schools accepted a $10,000 check. We worked with the AT&T Foundation for a program called Year 13, which really monitors students during their senior year and their year after high school, giving them resources they need to be successful. For example, they go to college, they leave the City of Tiffin, they leave Seneca County, and for some reason it doesn't work out, we get them connected back to Tiffin University, Tara, Heidelberg, to give them opportunities. Same goes with workforce and their workforce. Something happens, getting them working with OMJ to give them the proper training. And really, this program we see as an opportunity. Amy Wood, who's on the far right, just was recently hired by Tiffin City Schools and the North Central Ohio Educational Service Center, as being a program we can replicate and work with other county schools on the Year 13 program. BRNE, which is our business retention expansion visits, visiting many manufacturers throughout the county. This is Taiho. I think it's important because out of this meeting, we had talked about doing a bus tour again. It was done about 3 years ago, where we took educators throughout different manufacturers in Seneca County, and we took guidance counselors, we took principals, and we took superintendents to show them the opportunities that exist in our school districts. This visit was done earlier this year, really successful, and I think opens the eyes of all of our educators to the opportunities that exist in the county. Then kind of the second part of this is the manufacturing showcase. Katie and I sit on the committee for this, and we work with freshman students of all Seneca County schools to get them introduced to manufacturing in our community, as well as the skill sets needed in the current work environment. And then last is our office. It's kind of an initiative with the Seneca County Young Professionals. We're up to over 120 members. for the second, actually largest young professional organization in Northwest Ohio, and really it's a good reach of the entire county and getting, keeping the folks in our community here, and then getting them connected to different organizations and how they can be a part of our community. With that, I'll open up to any questions.
Sure.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to pass it on to Amy Reinhardt, Downtown Manager.
Do you have any secrets? Do you have anything else coming that we're not?
Stay tuned, right?
Okay.
So,
What's,
keep on your toes.
what's going in the old, is it the Riley Car Wash?
Yeah, so we're working with them on a potential.
All right. I see they do a lot of construction
They
down
are.
there.
It's good.
It's like it's main office.
Okay, well, I am Amy Reinhardt, the Downtown Manager with Didec, and just a few quick updates for you. So this year already, we've had 3 new businesses open, one including the Laird Arcade Brewery, which is our first brewery in the downtown since Prohibition, which we're really excited about. We've had a couple of other announcements, and a couple yet to come. Our downtown businesses are actually, another formatting issue, are really doing a great job of bringing customers in from not just the local area, but from surrounding communities, even the Empire as far as the Cleveland, Columbus area. They've had the Diner's Choice Award in 2017 and 18, and they're currently ranked number 2 out of 3,800 restaurants in the greater Cleveland market. So we're really seeing a nice influx of people into our community through some of these smaller businesses. And with the smaller businesses, I know you can't read it, but we're actually retaining approximately 68 cents on the dollar of the money that's coming into our community through these smaller businesses, because they're putting their money back into our community with purchasing local produce, with doing their marketing and advertising locally. So it really is a benefit to support the local businesses. And this year, we had our City Facade Enhancement Program, which is continuing to be very successful. So far, we've had 12 approved projects for approximately $570,000. We do have one more approval actually going to the Architectural Board of Review today, so we will have a total of 13 projects for the year. And so far, we've had 64 projects approvals for approximately $2.2 million reinvested back into our community through our beautiful historic downtown properties. I think it's going. The facade program itself actually is getting recognized at a state level. Last year it was recognized in Revitalize Ohio magazine, and it is about to be featured in the next issue of Cities and Villages magazine through the Ohio Municipal League. It is one of the top facade programs statewide in truly being able to revitalize and enhance downtown properties. We also have our Community Development Block Grant program, which is a competitive downtown revitalization grant that we received. So far, we have 10 projects that are in contract. 2 more are currently out to bid. So the program itself here ends the end of the month. So we're scrambling to make sure that everybody's projects are completed. But this was an opportunity for us to help businesses or building owners in the greater downtown area. So those beyond the traditional district. So that was the purpose of that grant. And when we start seeing the renovation taking place on the buildings, then we're starting to see it's attractive for those businesses that want to come in. So we're starting to see first floor renovations take place. And with that, we're seeing a need for housing. So upper floor renovations are taking place as well. We're having some really high quality upper floor apartments being renovated, and we're starting to see that those apartments are getting leased almost as quickly as they're getting completed. We have our 2 downtown plans, our 2010 strategic plan, and at this point we are nearly 80% complete with that plan. So it houses 124 different action tasks within it geared toward Main Street, and we are a Main Street community, and the Main Street is based on a 4-point approach to downtown revitalization, which is operations, marketing, design, and business enhancement. But since we're about 80% completed with that plan, we're looking forward to working with Heritage Ohio, which is the statewide organization overseeing Main Street, to do some transformational strategies as we're looking on putting together our scope as we move into 2018. And just very quickly, with each of the committees, design has been working on completing Klaus Kierian Leadership Park, which is a partnership with multiple different entities, including Lenny Klaus, Leadership Seneca County Class of 2014, the Design Committee, the Engineer's Office. It's been quite a conglomeration to get that completed. And our Alley project, which I'm very pleased to note, was completed by 2 grants that came in and funded solely by 2 grants from Meshach Frost Foundation and National Machinery Foundation. So no outside funding from that, just the grants. And that will be completed here later this month. That is 2 of the 3 projects that have taken place. We also had the streetscaping project that took place between Jefferson Street and Rock Creek Trail, which is nearly complete at this point. Well, the project is basically complete, but the trees and things are getting finalized at this point. Oop, a little too far. Marketing Committee, a couple of great events. Our Downtown Chocolate Walk here in the spring brought over 500 people into our community from the surrounding areas. And we're talking Findlay, we're talking Akron. I'm amazed at how far the reach is on these events, bringing people into our downtown. So it has been a great catalyst for continuing to bring people into the community, find out what we have to offer, and stay here to shop, eat, spend money in our community. They also put together, the downtown retailers, a small rat card that they are actually taking to the flea markets. The flea markets typically bring about 5,000 to 10,000 people into our community every time we have one. So the downtown retailers put together this information, and they're actually passing it out at the flea markets in an attempt to get those people to stay in our community just a little bit longer. Come downtown and eat, come down and shop. So we're really trying to make the effort to keep people in our community, to spend money in our community, and to appreciate what we have to offer. Again, formatting issues. Business Enhancement Committee has been working on our downtown discount card as one of 2 major initiatives. And this is an opportunity to get those students that are here only 9 months out of the year into the downtown again. Come down, see what we have to offer, shop, eat, enjoy. We're also working on our retention and expansion calls in the downtown. So working with the business that we have, making sure that we have met their needs and that they're here to stay. Operations, which is our downtown board. We did receive a state award this last year from Heritage Ohio for our Around the Town event. So the committee has made an effort to apply for a couple of more potential awards this year, working on certified local government status, and as I mentioned, preparing to do some strategic planning. It is our plans here for the fall to be going out to the 6 different villages in Seneca County to be working with them to determine if their needs are being met and if there's ways that we can help to promote what they have going on. Just a few quick statistics for you. Right now we have 29 active projects in the downtown, from new businesses, renovation projects, investment, hiring, 35 different initiatives from different events we have going on, boards and committees. We've had 23 different people attend 16 different training sessions so far this year. That does include a 5-week seminar or webinar series that took place to assist our Architectural Board of Review. We've received over $12,000 in in-kind donations and logged over 600 volunteer hours yet so far this year. And at this point, we've had 14 completed facade projects, 4 new businesses have opened, as I mentioned, 3 more coming. We've had 3 new upper floor apartments completed, 2 of our 3 public improvement projects are completed, and we're already looking at approximately $1 million in the downtown for this year. So I anticipate us seeing continued growth as we complete the rest of the year. So that's all I have. If anybody has questions?
Amy, I've got one.
Sure.
The certified local governments, I
Yes.
read that in the release the other day that was out. What exactly, can you briefly describe what that means?
Okay, so because we have an architectural board of review in place, it actually, there are some stipulations that we need to look at, but it offers the opportunity for us to be opened up to a significant amount of funding. So as we're continuing to do our planning and other goals in that range, there is quite a bit of funding at the state level that we would be opened up to if we do get approved for the certified local government. So we actually have a committee that's getting ready to start meeting. We have the application and everything in hand, so we're going to be reviewing what all the steps are and that it takes to get there, and then the application itself is going to be reviewed in January of 19.
So it's a type of accreditation program similar to that.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Around the Town event?
Sure.
That's it.
Okay, so Around the Town is, this year, it's on August 25th, and it will be in the RTA property lot. That is an event where the university presidents from both Tiffin University and Heidelberg University walk their students into the downtown. So this is part of their requirements for freshman weekend. So we do get about 1,000 students that come down with the university presidents, and they're met with 50, 60 different businesses from all around the community, not just downtown, and they're set up in that lot. And those students are walked downtown so they know how to get there. They're met with all those businesses who are giving them coupons and discounts and incentives. We're also offering them the student discount card, as I mentioned. So we're giving them a chance to, or an opportunity to want to come back. So it has been a really great opportunity to get those students engaged, to see just how close they are to campus and know what our community has to offer for them. So that's been a great event, and that actually was the event that we won the award at the state for the best committee project. But I will say that has been a collaboration between SIDEC and the Chamber to put that event on annually.
It used to actually be taken on each campus. It was 2 individual events that brought downtown together as one event. I think that, partnership and the collaboration piece is huge. And I think it's another thing that, the universities come together with the different businesses from all of our communities. So.
And that's on a Saturday, right?
Yep,
And there's a
25th.
East Green.
No, it'll be at
concert
the
that night?
RTA lot.
Yes,
yeah.
Oh, there is
That
a
night as well.
And as part of
Yep.
their package and whatnot, the concert series is actually in all their information when they come in. So then that's something they're going to communicate outward, saying there's also a concert series that night. Come on out. Last year they did the music art festival was the same day as well. So trying to find ways to engage the students in their first weekend in Tiffin.
Excellent job bringing all that together.
Yeah, and the concert that night is geared towards the college kids as well, the featured artists, so,
That's very cool.
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to hand the talking stick off to David, the president and CEO of SIDEC.
Okay, would you like me to continue? We're at our 15, but
Yeah,
4 or 5 more
please.
minutes, you want me to go? Okay.
You have the floor.
I have the floor, okay. So, again, I'm not gonna recount a lot of the specifics. The team has done a great job doing that. Just some of the larger trends that we look at, that I think about, that the organization thinks about. If you look at unemployment rate, in June, we were at 5%, so a little bit below the state average. Less than some counties around us, more than, like, for example, Hancock's traditionally a little bit less than us. Than Seneca County. In April, it was 3.9%, which is the lowest it's been in 20 years. So relatively speaking, unemployment's very, very low. In 2009, I go back to where it was 12.7%. So we've seen quite a change in about a decade, and really since the last 4 years it's been like that. WARN notices, those are required for companies of a certain size to notify they're going to either close down or lay people off. We haven't had any since 2012. That doesn't mean companies haven't laid people off, it just means of a certain size and meaning legal requirements, but it still is a barometer where we had a period prior to 2012. Part of that you had American Standard, and part of that you had a number of others. Site selection, we've been consistently in the top 10% every year, going back 6 years, and been in the top 10 in the country out of 500 to 600 counties of our size that aren't part of a metro area. So pretty significant. Talk about housing units. They're really 68 available within basically Seneca County. That's from mobile home to mansion.
which the realtors will tell you is there's really not anything available from their perspective. And then population, so one of the things that does keep me up at night is you look and you see that, you know, we've had some trends. The trends have gotten better in terms of the kind of the negative. If you look at 1970, it was kind of the peak, and it's been and this is something that's common throughout all Ohio. And if you look at Ohio counties that are increasing in population, there are like 8. 6 of them are urban counties, like Cincinnati or Delaware. Or the only 2 that are not, so Athens, which is, you know, kind of unique because of Ohio University. And then you get to Ashland, so that's kind of an anomaly. Things that keep us.
Is
Yes.
the student population included in that number?
You know, it's interesting that you asked that. So President Rob Huntington and I were on a trip, town and gown. Shane was there, and we were talking about this very subject. And apparently, the census rules stipulate that they have to be included, at least for Bowling Green, and that's also not. So I don't have. So the theory is yes. But we haven't talked since that conversation, haven't talked to the census directly. North Central Ohio Educational Service Center is the one that was running the census. So it's an interesting question. So my understanding is that the census rules state that, so I'm going to make an assumption and say that.
But
So
I've never known it to be true, that's why.
Well, that's why I'm not giving you, stating it as a fact. Larger trend, I talked about that. So projects, you know, a lot, Bryce covered a lot of it. This is just within the last few weeks in this year, so a lot, you know, and, you know, if you look at Planet Fitness, that's sales taxable, right? So fitness center services are sales taxable, and so we always think about these things. So project activity is very large. One of the things I wanted to get into, as opposed to things that have happened, is what's the pipeline, right? What is our activity? I kind of mentioned it when I was talking a little bit about, but, you know, this was as of a week ago. I think it's 89 today. 88 active projects. And 19 closed won active. What that means is of those 88, 19 are projects that have been announced, are public, but we still have things we're working on with respect to them, and 38 inactive projects. So those are projects that have even been deferred on hold, but they're not dead, they're still active. We also did a recent account of all the different initiatives that we're working on. These are things that are not development project related, and it's about 128. So we have more than 200 things literally going on that we're working on. Kind of breakdown in terms of, you know, 42 of those projects are projects that are where we're trying to help existing businesses grow. 16 are attraction projects, 9 are startup businesses. Other types of projects that obviously does not add up to 88. But other examples might be people that are investing in real estate as an example of something where they're going to attract a business in there, but the actual investment into real estate, that is we view as a different kind of project, but a project nonetheless. Geography, so everything we do is Seneca County. Amy talked about all the things going on in downtown Tiffin. 45 outside of that, and 13 specifically in other areas of the county. A lot of the activity we get is folks that come to us and ask us for services, and then we are happy to provide those. Or we're engaged by partners that are saying, hey, can you help this business? Or through relationships that we have. Kind of broke out what kind of projects by industry. You can see that there. So real estate, investment, manufacturing, retail, arts, entertainment. So so what are the challenges? This is kind of the message. What are the challenges and what we're doing with that? And that's how I'm going to kind of wrap up. So the challenges that we're facing: workforce, number one issue. We recently conducted a survey. You know, how do you address the strategy? The companies can't find the workers that they need. 75% can't keep or hire the workers that they need. How do you address that? Education programs, how do you do that? Real estate, we talked about, there's not enough product throughout the county. In the industrial space, there's not, you know, commercial and then residential. There's just not enough available real estate for the needs. Awareness, how do we continue to promote the resources that are out there and add value to the companies that are out there? Policy, so tariffs, so we hear a lot. How do we help companies? Some companies are benefiting from the new tariff structures, and some are saying this is causing a huge. We talked to manufacturers, said we have a $30 million business that's adding $500,000 in additional costs. Some people are saying we're going to. So how do we help those that are negatively impacted? And there are ways, and that's I'm going to mention what we're doing. And then controversial industries. Obviously, medical marijuana is one, and wind is another. How do we? That's been a challenge for how does SIDAC chart a path of doing what we need to be doing. In those industries. And then organization, funding, obviously we had some discussions with the county on potential opportunities, but we always have to, you know, how do we do that also in the private sector?
always making sure we know what our mission is and what services we're providing, and keeping and retaining a very, very talented staff that we're fortunate enough to have. So some of the initiatives that we're doing, so on workforce, we have a strategic plan we did a couple years ago, working on a county-wide North Central Ohio Educational Service Business Advisory Council. The next meeting's been set up at the end of the month. We're going to reveal the results of that survey, a little sneak peek, and integrating it both with businesses from Fostoria and businesses from the rest of the county. But those are some statistics, and so the interesting one is 54% think there are trainings and certifications that would be beneficial. Let's flesh that out. How do we get at that? Putting a resource guide together, and there are a lot of events to talk about, manufacturing bus tour, et cetera, that the team has been working on. So real estate, so we put up a spec building, a lot of activity on that. We're looking at expanding the park. How do we identify other county properties that are interesting for industrial? Some of those are looking to be rezoned. I know Clinton Township, for example, is looking at rezoning a piece of industrial property. So it's kind of how do you go about helping where they want to have certain industrial development? How do you help the folks that are out there? Progress Parkway, Bryce talked about. We did a downtown parking study, which is very relevant in terms of the Joint Justice Center, et cetera. So we're looking, that's finalized. It's going to be unveiled to the parking committee. Commissioner Thomas is on that. And the judges, Judge Steve Shuff's on there, the mayor and other elected officials are on there. It's kind of what do we need to do in downtown, and then a downtown development study. And residential, we're looking to get a housing study done. That would be Tiffin and a circle around. So this is like, anytime you do a housing study, so it would be, you'd say at least half from the land area of the county. So it's kind of like what product is needed and at what price point. So that's important. And we are taking care of business, let me tell you. We are trying every day. And then do you put incentives in place for that to happen? Awareness, Katie talked about all the things that we're doing, and Bryce talked about our retention expansion visits. So on policy, so I'm going to pause here for a little bit. So one is a foreign trade zone. So we have access to a foreign trade zone that's administered. The grantee is out of Findlay Hancock Chamber of Commerce. But any business can set up a foreign trade zone within their factory. It costs some money, but if you have a significant negative impact because of the tariffs, basically when you bring in raw materials or things that your product's going to use, it basically defers those duties. It's outside the U.S. stream of commerce. So then you can make your stuff, and sometimes when you have a piece of machinery, et cetera, it's then cheaper when you send it out. The tariffs on that value-added product are cheaper. And so it's something that we're going to make sure to market. When it comes to some of the controversial industries like winds, I just had a conversation with Adams Township earlier this week. Obviously, our role has been, we've been an advocate for changes in the setbacks for us, last year and this year, and that was when there was pretty much a united front between all elected officials. On that, obviously, that's changed. In terms of, and as a 501c3, we have limited amount of scope that we can do in terms of how much advocacy. But obviously, at the county, we have a commission that's 2-to-1. We have both state legislators that are not in favor of changing the setbacks, are in favor of the wind projects, but not in favor. I've had townships calling me saying, hey, we do it, some are in favor. So it's a mixed bag. So what do we do? What is our mission? Our mission is to facilitate projects. So we have standard economic development services. So I work with Dalton all the time. It's like our services are, we do site selection. So if you're looking for a place to go, if there are incentives that are needed, and those have kind of been taken care of. In this case, in the case of wind, in the case of medical marijuana, it was kind of the city council at Tiffin, which is where a company was looking, basically said we don't want it, they outlawed it, and so we don't work on it. But what we try to do, because the wind projects aren't really using any of our traditional economic development services, we just try to provide subject matter expertise in our limited scope, which is economic development benefits. So the auditor has come up with what we anticipate the tax revenue that's going to be generated from the project. We understand that is one dimension of a much larger discussion. And we are not maintaining that is the be-all, end-all, but it is significant. We just want to make sure that people know the facts. Then the policymakers and others can make a decision on whether that is overall. For example, medical marijuana generates positive economic development benefits as well. Do they want it? That's really not our role. We respond to what the community via the elected officials and others say, but we are going to say, yes, it generates this kind of revenue. We also understand that there are aspects of the business climate that we are not experts on. So if you look at property values, we are not expert on what, there are studies that say this, there are studies that say that. That's not our field of expertise. But what we can tell you is based on the assumptions, for over this period of 30 years, this kind of revenue is going to be generated, and it's about 50 million for both projects if you just look at the tax revenue. We also don't look at, for example, although it's quantifiable, we can't tell you, for example, what's the industry impact to the farming community of being able to have that. How many farms will be sustained? So there are a lot of dimensions. We know this. We know a lot of people are very engaged with this, but we are, anybody that asks us questions, anybody that wants us to opine on what is the revenue generated, we do this for any project, especially if it's public, we will give our expert opinion on where we are an expert. And so that's what we're trying to focus on and add our value to the overall equation. Last but not least, organization, county contract for services. This was the county is looking to get more engaged and more services out in the county. We think that's an exciting development, put more resources in economic development. We want to be able to compete for that, and we know this is a marketplace and nothing's for sure, so we're excited about that opportunity. Some of the things that we've talked about is stuff we already had in our scope of work, so it's not new, like we aren't all of a sudden reaching out to the county and talking, but there are things we're going to get done, and we're going to put together, based on the feedback I got in Fostoria, with a contract that kind of reflects that as we position ourselves to compete for that potential additional funding and additional services. We're going to continue to work on our private fundraising, working on community development with the city of Tiffin, some very exciting things going on in that space. We are, kind of the co-partner with Charlene, who handles and the Regional Planning Commission on community development out in the county, and are facilitating a community development plan on behalf of Tiffin, but we're very engaged with that. And we measure the community development block grant funds. And then projects versus events. We don't do events. We work on projects. So it's very clear. People keep trying to suck us to lead events, and we say no. For example, Pizza Palooza, we have great, they volunteered their time, and I'm hitting somebody's bag, and I'm sorry, to do Pizza Palooza. We don't do it. And then how do we create a good work environment? So that's probably, I don't know how long it was, but you didn't stop me. You didn't pull the cane. So, question, yes.
Just a statement to add,
Yes.
with your very robust list of things in the pipeline and other
Yes.
projects and things that
Yes.
happen, and as the Seneca Industrial Economic Development Corporation,
Yes.
that some people may not realize, is that things within the municipality of Fostoria is a separate project list. There'd be a few things that are crossed over.
There are.
But they would as well have a robust list, so that there are lots of great things going on all across the county, but David's does not factor in the things within the city of Fostoria.
It factors a small number.
Yeah.
So there are a couple
Yeah.
of places where we get engaged in the city of Fostoria, but they have a very robust economic development organization. But sometimes in the county, for example, we administer the Sandusky County, Seneca County, City of Tiffin Port Authority, Sioux County Port Authority. So sometimes with Port Authority financing, we're engaged. Sometimes just because of tax incentives, so we're working on a potential deal in Fostoria, we're working with the to help facilitate and lend some value on that front. But yeah, generally they have a separate list, and it's kind of like, if you need us, we'll be there. But Renee and her team are doing a great job promoting that community as well. So great point.
Okay, thank you, David.
Yep.
David, I just got a quick question.
Sure.
Is there any chance you can go back to the slide with the counties that were colored?
The slide with the counties that
Yeah,
were
they were
covered?
like the employment.
Oh, yeah. If I can. Uh-oh. She cut
If
me
you
off.
can't, don't worry about it.
Nikki, can you do that quickly? Okay.
David, when's your strategic planning?
It will be the last meeting in October,
Okay.
which will be, and all the commissioners are invited, as well as all city council members.
Is that when you anticipate taking our suggestions to your board as far as the contract for the county? Or that
I
part of
think that should be,
process?
certainly be, those, what we do is,
Just
yeah,
looking for a
the answer
timeframe,
is
I guess.
yes, that stuff will be discussed then, yes.
This one, Chris?
I'm working on it prior to that, but
Yeah.
it will get discussed, yes.
Okay.
Is this board, do you want us to engage, I can make a recommendation? Is this the way you want us to go? This is how I would propose we do it. Are there other things you want us to consider? And they give the sign off, and then we're positioned to be able to compete for the contract effectively.
Is this the one that's talking
Chris,
about?
what's your question?
Yes.
Hey, I'm sorry, so what are the colors? I mean, I can't
Oh,
really see
okay,
the
so,
percentages.
yeah, no, that's a great question, and there's if you put in your Google Ohio LMI unemployment map,
Okay.
you'll get the most current one. Basically, it colors it, the 4.2% or lower is basically because the United States rate is 4.2% in terms of unemployment. The blue, 4.3% to 5.3 means it's higher than the national average, but less than the state average, because the state unemployment average is 5.3. If it's this green, it's above 5.3%, so it means it's above both the national and the state average. And then if you're above 7%, you're red. So that's how they do it. They usually, yeah, so it's usually for this particular one, and those numbers change, but that's how they did it for this particular map.
Okay.
Okay.
Again,
any
Ohio
questions?
Illinois unemployment map.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Folks, I appreciate
Yep,
it.
absolutely. Have a good day.
Okay, continuing, I guess, with one of the themes of the day, we have a proclamation regarding the Board of Commissioners of Seneca County, Heroin Awareness Day. I won't read it all, but on August 11th, we are supporting and promoting exemplary efforts of spirit of cooperation among organizations dedicated to the creation of implementation of resources to combat the heroin and opiate epidemic. To start the conversation, Rachel Clyde invites all residents of Seneca County area to participate in the Heroin Awareness Day, which is Saturday, August 11th, and there will be details to follow. But that's something I want to make everybody aware of. It's all been signed by the commissioners proclaiming that Heroin Awareness Day. We have also on the date of August 25th has come up a couple of times. That's the day for the Around the Town. Mr. Thomas mentioned that there would be a concert that night. We are also in cooperation with the Homeless Coalition doing an event entitled, or will be entitled, Bounty in the County. We will have a refrigerated truck either at our lot or at the East Green lot to collect items for the homeless and the underprivileged. They would include not only food items, but also, you know, toilet paper and paper towels and toothbrushes, etc. So, when people say there isn't anything going on the 25th, we have the farmer's market, a concert around the town, and a little bit of a food and otherwise collection going on that day. And I'm sure there's other things going on that I'm not aware of. Continuing again with the drug thought here, there is an issue one, a constitutional amendment in Ohio that's out there, the Neighborhood Safety Drug Treatment Rehabilitation Amendment. We just wanted to let you know that we are aware of it. What they are attempting to do, the state, is change the Constitution to, we talked about felony 5s here, possession of narcotics and opiates. They want to change that to misdemeanors to lessen the population in the state prisons. The sense right now is that's kind of a unfunded mandate from the state to the counties, because they would like us to house the prisoners as opposed to them. Supposedly it's going to save $100 million, and supposedly that money would come back to the counties, but we all know that story. So we will discuss it later and further. I've had a conversation with Mr. Reineke. He has not yet come to a position on it, so hopefully we're all on the same page with that one. So just keep an eye out. It's not too far away till we go. Issue 1 is a constitutional amendment dealing with drugs. Try to keep yourself.
How do you know if the County Commissioners Association took a position on that?
No, not as of yet, they have not.
And
Okay.
the opiate task force hasn't taken a position?
They haven't taken a firm position because they want to discuss it with Representative Reineke. I can tell you the reaction was negative, but I'm not sure where it'll come out finally. So, Mr. Thomas, you had a couple things you said?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to update a couple things. The Attica Eagles, the fence went up today, demolition should start this week. And I wanna give a huge shout out to Damon Alt and Renee from FEDC, who's done a lot of work on this. But I think every county official has been involved. I know both of you at the land bank, and the auditor and the prosecutor has reviewed contracts. So we've got a number of financial partners on that as well. So that's been a couple of years in the running. Charlene's worked on it. I know that we've been focused on that, and the village just hasn't had the money to do it. So we had to seek some resources to get that done. And the parking, David had mentioned the parking study. We do have a proposal from Calvert to lease us some land to create parking for juvenile probate and juror selection. So I look to have some form of MOU in the near future for your consideration to create additional county parking. The gentleman from the pipeline will be in on Thursday. You're both welcome to sit in on that, just to kind of give us the pre-closure conference, so if there are issues there. I know there's a few little road issues that are still being discussed. And then Friday, I'm going out to look at parts of Wolf Creek. That project is nearing completion, but not completion. We have some retainage on that, and there are some thoughts on Wolf Creek, so somebody wants me to come out and look at that, and I'll report back on that. But we may have more conversations on that, depending what the landowners think.
Okay, that might be the longest agenda item we've ever had at Wolf Creek.
It's 1958 or something?
Yeah, something like that.
And I just sent a email in response to yours about that invite of your going out there of some questions, just to make sure between soil conservation and the engineer that we're all on the same page.
Right.
Because we're getting some mixed signals and so forth, but I think that'd probably be a good move as you're out there and you'll hear from that perspective, and they all know we need to come together and have some discussion on these, as the project's wrapping up, and then how things are moving forward and when and all that for the maintenance.
Commissioner Stacy, anything else for you?
To add, no.
Okay, let's get on to new business. You're up.
Okay, I have a supplement to the permanent appropriation to the maintenance and repair fund. He's moving a total of $1,385,540.89 into his contract projects lines. I have a resolution authorizing an appropriation adjustment within the capital projects fund, moving $100,000 from contingencies to the transfers out. A couple of these resolutions will go together, I'll explain in a minute. Supplement to the permanent appropriations to the capital projects fund, $200,000 into the transfers out. And then a total transfer of resolution to be made to the, actually to the Justice Center Fund for $300,000. This is the amount we put away last year. We thought maybe we would need some additional funding. We're winding up, we're almost done, so we are down in cash, so this is actually moving the cash. I still have to get invoices out to the city of Tiffin for their FF&E, which I think will cover the remaining, but we're almost done, so.
Let me make sure, the appropriated adjustment for capital projects, 1215, 1215, 100 and 200. That's not the total for the 300, that's a total separate transaction.
No, those are all, we have to put it into the transfers outline to be able to
So it's a net
Yes.
of these things, okay, very good.
I have a supplement to the permanent appropriations to the general fund for $100 in travel. This is at the request of the auditor's office. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriations for the 2018 Seneca County Township Road Reconstruction Program, OPWC. They needed to increase it by $100 in that contract services line. Oops, front of the edge. I have a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. And I have a resolution authorizing the Seneca County Board of Commissioners to sign a satisfaction of mortgage for Barnett, single person holding life estate, and Reisner, single person, for the satisfaction of their loan with the Seneca County Commissioners for work done through the Community Housing Improvement Program FY 1999 due to the foreclosure and sheriff's sale of the property. I think Charlene's here if you have any questions on that one. And that's all I have.
Okay, I will accept the motion to approve the appropriations and the authorizations here.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Roll call, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes. I understand there is no need for executive session.
Nope, I don't need that.
Okay, the time has come for public comment. Do we have any?
You're looking at me.
No, well, I thought you were getting, can't believe you have an opportunity to speak or not. No, I thought you'd get
I
ready.
have a question for Shane.
Okay.
I want to know why Shane feels there's a conflict of interest with the county prosecutor representing both the townships and the county on the windmill project.
Yeah, that's the prosecutor's opinion, that there's a potential conflict of interest there.
We have a letter from Derek that says there would be no conflict.
We
Signed
got,
waiver.
we got a request to sign a waiver that said there's a potential conflict.
And
So.
did this happen after the letter that was sent to us, Derek? Do you know?
I think he's talking about the same, what I prepared was a written waiver of any conflict or potential conflict of interest.
Okay. And you didn't feel there was at that time?
Well, there's a potential for a conflict. Like, the citing commission, as I understand it, is different than normal litigation. That there's actually written documents that are read by the attorney. And I'm guessing after the first 30 seconds, the excitement's gone, and he just reads or she reads into the record. So I didn't feel that there was a risk of a conflict of interest in that type of setting. But there's the potential for a conflict of interest. I mean, and we can't have, if we have somebody who's wants to have a confidential discussion about a legal situation, I can't go to Adams Township and say, tell me your secrets, and hold those secrets, and then potentially use them against a different township or against the county. So the waiver is just putting it out there for everybody. Hey, we're representing everybody, and there's no privilege as it relates to any communication you have with us as it relates to this situation. And as my understanding, that Commissioner Thomas indicated to my assistant prosecutor that he wasn't willing to sign that waiver. So I wanted you guys to know immediately, you need to get a lawyer. That's the reason I sent it out, on the first was, hey, I want you guys to know. And I think you guys should get the same lawyer. Save some money, go together, get one lawyer to represent all of you. If you guys can all agree on, the direction you're going.
Well, at that time, the commissioners have to get a lawyer also, correct?
Well, it's up to them. I'm not representing them against the townships any more than I'm representing the townships against them, unless everybody signs a written waiver of a conflict of interest. I mean, we have issues all the time where, we do foreclosures and there's a chip loan and the commissioners are a defendant in a lawsuit initiated by the treasurer. Again, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter because the law sets forth who gets paid first.
Correct.
But we have a written waiver, that we have signed every time we have new.
That's in litigation.
Yeah.
This is really not litigation, correct?
Well, it's a lawsuit. I mean,
It's a statement before the citing court, isn't it?
If we just went that far,
Yeah.
can we do the waiver to that far and then nobody has to buy a lawyer, pay for a lawyer till then,
Well,
after that?
The only way we can do it, in my opinion, is if we have a signed waiver by all the trustees and all the commissioners.
Let's make it clear.
Project though.
Derek sent a letter or an email to us. I don't know if he sent one to the trustees or not. Township trustees as well. When you sent out your.
Yeah, it went to all.
It went to everybody.
Yeah.
And the sense that I had when I read it was that there is a conflict here, obviously, but I'm okay with that as long as you waive it. Simply stated. I emailed back, I think it said I'm okay with that, because most of it is just simply reading of a position paper. And even though, as you all know, I'm one against two regarding the wind situation at this point, I was still willing to say, you represent the county as approving the wind projects, and continuing on with the AEZ, it says. So I have no idea what the rest of the trustees nor what my other commissioners responded. And I knew what Shane responded because I was told. But,
Well, I just want to know, Shane, it just makes common sense that at this point, the waiver makes sense for everybody, because then we don't have to go out and hire an attorney.
Was that a question, or?
You're open to comment on it if you'd like.
I don't have any comment on it.
No comment at all.
Yeah, to
Yes.
me, the issue is, Greg Smith here, is the scope of this waiver, and this question is related specifically to the township trustees intervention process and not anything beyond that that potentially would be in a court of law. So I don't see this being, Derek, from my perspective, that it's like a, litigation. I think that's what you were alluding to. This is in regards to the intervention process, which is a function that the prosecutor's office would normally serve with the citing board to process the feedback from the various township trusts, the various townships that want to intervene, and you would serve as that kind of communication point between the trustees and the citing board. That's the function of the role.
The commissioners are a party as well, though.
Yeah, they
So they have the right, and we, even though it's more of an administrative, to be on both sides of an argument presents a potential for a conflict of interest. And any party, any elected official that we represent is entitled to have, if they want to have a conversation about their legal rights and responsibilities and have that confidence, where it's privileged, where I don't tell somebody what the Adams trustees told me. We can have attorney-client privileged communication, but in this situation, representing multiple townships and county commissioners, we can't maintain that level of secrecy, privileged communication among 4 or 5 different entities. So we have, which is why we have the waiver to avoid putting us in a situation, and also to put them on notice. Don't tell us your secrets, because if you tell us you got this great strategy to pull a quick one on somebody, we can't keep that a secret. So keep your secrets to yourself.
Well, here's a concern that I have about. From my reading of the correspondence from you, Derek, was that you were willing to represent both.
Yes.
As long as the waiver was signed. There isn't such a deep conflict that it can't be resolved by waiving it.
That's
Okay?
my opinion, yes.
My second concern is that townships who may have otherwise intervened may not, because there is a direct expense attached to that intervention. Whereas they are now represented by a county prosecutor for free, as part of the system, they would now have to have private counsel, and that may dissuade them from intervening positively or negatively, because they now have a cost that's imposed on their township. I think that's the sum, yes.
Just a quick question, has the county filed to intervene?
They don't have to. As a county, they're automatically.
Okay.
It's the townships have the right to intervene if they want.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a twofold question. Each one of you, I would like you to answer, why did you run for commissioner? What was your purpose in becoming a commissioner? I would like an answer from each one of you.
Could you state your name and where you live?
Nancy Seifert, out by Malmore, Eaton Township.
I'll start. I'm a lifelong resident of Seneca County, banker, retired, and saw some things from a fiscal standpoint, and the process of getting the courthouse. At that point, we got to go back, getting that thing completed. It seemed to me there needed to be a little more business acumen in the commissioner's office, and I thought maybe I could fill that role, and that's why I decided.
Nancy, I had the interest in continuing doing public service work. I had done so with school board and felt that I had some things to lend to represent not only the rural community, but just to bring my expertise in that too. It's a diverse board, and that's what makes the board work well if we all have different backgrounds. And so I felt I had something to offer.
Yeah, similar. I had found myself in a position where I had the time to serve and the skill set to serve, and the community's been good to me, and I wanted to use this role as an opportunity to give back.
So in other words, I'm hearing that you really wanted to be elected to help serve the people of Seneca County, correct?
Sure, I think that's a general.
Okay, my second part of the question. I know one have shown up, and I know the invitation has been issued for each one of you. If you are if you're serving the constituency of Seneca County, why have two of you not shown up to hear our reasons of why we're opposing this? There has to be a reason, knowing how many that have gone to all these meetings. There has to be a reason why we're against this. Why have you not been concerned enough to serve us, to come and hear what we have to say?
The main request, Nancy, that I think I've heard is about rescinding the AEZ. And I stated in the meeting when that was proposed here, why I do not want to vote in favor of rescinding the AEZ. So, as you have other concerns and things along the way, that's the one issue that the county could play anything in. Won't probably stop 2 projects going forth, but that's the reason I've elected not to, and or why schedule-wise, to participate in the other meetings, because I think I'm gonna frustrate people, because I know where I stand on that AEZ. And so, you know, not the other things may important or not important, I'm against unprotecting the county.
I think that, you know, several people in this room have been in my office, and I've had extensive email exchanges with a lot of folks. So, although, you know, there's the accusation that we're not coming to the meetings, I think we're very engaged with, you know, many people who are concerned on the anti-wind side. So, if there's somebody that has tried to reach out to me and I haven't responded, I apologize, but I've tried to schedule every meeting and read every email and you know, take calls that are available or call people back. So I've tried to be as engaged as possible, and you know, we're probably looking at hundreds of hours at this point in responding to email, taking phone calls, visiting folks, having people in my office, and you know, I think several of you in here could attest to time I'm dealing with. So
I guess, and I'm speaking just for me, but I would have felt a lot better if you would have shown more concern by showing up and listening to the programs that were given, and hearing why people have the concerns they have. That's what I want to see you care enough to come to the meetings.
I guess
You can have as many one-on-ones as you want, but we don't know that.
One of the things that I will say is that I have, you know, I picked up, and Commissioner Thomas is correct, we've had tons of conversations, I've had those conversations as well, both, on both sides. You know, I've had, you know, folks promoting the wind in the office as well. So, but there is, in a number of the meetings, and one of the reasons that, you know, that I had great concern about things was that during the course of many of the meetings, or 2 or 3 of them, I talked to folks I wouldn't have ordinarily talked with, okay? You know, I talked to a guy who's been a lifelong friend of mine. I had no idea what his position was, for example, who had rescinded the lease. That was informative to me. You know, I talked to a couple other folks who actually were offered leases and didn't take them, you know, people that could have used the money. And I've talked to people that were there that had leased their land and actually are looking for a way to rescind it. I would not have talked to any of those folks had I not been to those meetings. So I just think that you have a better appreciation when there is 200 people in a room than you do when you're talking to individuals in your office. That's my sense.
One of my concerns, and a very strong concern for me, is the health issues. They have stated in papers that they have published from them health concerns. I have those health concerns. So now I am facing another thing in my life that I have to put up with because this wasn't brought out. I didn't find out until right before we left for Florida with snowbirds. I never found out what was even going on until our neighbor said, I'm signing up for wind turbines. Huh? We left. I didn't know anything till we got back in May. Why was this kept so hush-hush? How long have you guys known?
Since before I was in office. There was information going on. I attended a commissioner meeting before I was a commissioner just to hear the discussion on the AEZ. It's been 10+ years when companies are out there starting to get leases with the landowners.
This is a very, very common thing throughout this whole process. I'm Jason Smith, by the way. I live in Scipio Township, very close to the Republic Wind. Most of the residents in that area are still asking, what are all these signs about? We don't understand what's going on. We have no idea. I didn't even know about it until very recently, and I'm very investigative in what goes on in the county. To find out that this was voted in 2011, and we're just now at the point we're at, and people are still not understanding. Kelly Miller, right here, I don't want to put you on the spot. She lives real close to us, works with my wife, Adrian. She just found out she's going to have 3 of these, one on each 3 sides of her property. People don't know what's going on, and you know, it takes a lot of effort for me to actually talk in front of people, but this is important to me. We're real people. We've spent a lot of money in this county on our properties. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars on our properties. We had zero input into whether or not these are going to be built. And what you're building, what you have to understand, you are building an industrial complex in the countryside. This isn't about a 200-foot tall windmill that's going to power someone's house. That's not a problem. You too individually have the power to change our countryside for the next 30 years. Has that sunk in?
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, it is very, very real. This is not something that's just a willy-nilly, we're gonna have something done here, we're gonna give Joe Miller down the street the permission to build a hog barn. This is not that situation. This is our countryside. You see that great seal of Ohio right there? You see any industry? You see any windmills? I don't see anything. Beautiful land, what we all paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for. You're changing that. You too are going to change that. For our children, our grandchildren. There's a place for industry. And when you say you don't want to unprotect the county, by allowing this to happen, you're unprotecting our county. You are changing the countryside. It may not be important to you. I know you own a few hundred acres, you and your husband. I know your family owns a couple thousand. My concern there, and I don't want to make any accusations. We all know, look at Van Wert. We all know we start out with a few locations, a few windmills. I don't care right now. I'll barely be able to see them. But for the people that do have to look at them and deal with these every day, it's a very real thing. The problem that they have is these expand. They don't just confine to a little area and say, here's your $50 million over the next 30 years, which is not guaranteed, by the way. We're going to expand this. Now that they're an eyesore, now that they could potentially cause health problems and no one cares, now that they're killing the eagles, the wildlife, everything else, let's expand on that because the people are used to it. And that's where this is going. That's where it always goes. Seneca Wind, I didn't even know about that until about a month ago, that this was expanding. Are you kidding me? We're going to turn our countryside into a freaking industrial area. Protecting the countryside, that's keeping industry out of our countryside. And further, these things are not going away, and they're not reliable. They're not reliable. I don't understand this. I don't understand what your mindset is. $50 million, that's peas and carrots these days. There are much better ways to make that money in this county. Much better. What we just heard, DIC, I think it is, or Seneca County.
Yeah.
They're doing an excellent job. Mayor Motz, excellent job in this town. Bringing industry in, bringing the jobs in, bringing the money in. There are better ways of doing this without tearing the country apart, a county apart. I mean, look at our country right now. It's torn apart. Why do we have to have it here at home? Why? For a few dollars? It's ridiculous.
So just, just a couple thoughts. One.
Commissioner Thomas, I hate to interrupt you. I have to leave. I have to pick up a teenager for band camp. So if anybody has any questions.
Quick question before you leave. So basically, and I bring on his brain a little bit, township aspect, Bill Frankfurt, Adams Township, is there any other counties who are in a similar situation that we are, as far as
Representation
for?
I'm not sure what's going on in Champaign County.
Okay, well, I talked to Jaden Peer, who's assistant prosecutor down there, and they actually are on kind of both sides of the situation, and they are representing whichever direction you want to go. So that was a conversation I had with her last.
And I
Thursday,
understand
so.
Champaign County, it's been so long that trustees have come and gone, and some townships or commissioners have, we were against it, now we're for it because of the change in composition.
Yeah, but she says they are representing both sides of it, just an FYI, and I have to identify that conversation out.
If any of the trustees have any questions, any commissioners, any.
Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, the sheriff has a question. I'll even talk to the sheriff. So, yes.
Thank you, Derek, very much for coming.
I thought it was 11. All of a sudden it's 12:30.
Okay, I appreciate it. And, you know, what my stance on this is that those people that are the most affected seem to have the least voice, and somebody has to stand up for them. And have the least financially to gain. And that's what I believe. That's what I believe. You know, very quickly, let someone else talk, but, you know, to me, it's like the frog in the boiling water kind of deal. You can put them in and just warm it up, and eventually they're cooked. If you throw them in a hot boiling water, they're going to jump out. We're kind of getting slowly used to the landscape changing, and to the point where eventually it all changes. And we don't, then one day we look back and say, what happened?
Exactly.
And as far as what the legacy is for our grandchildren, that question's been asked a number of times. I believe the legacy is that 1 or 2 generations from now, they're gonna have to pay to tear them down.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's not made up. The life of these things are 15 to 20 years, admittedly, by the companies. So what happens 20 years from now when they no longer generate enough power to be efficient and to make sense?
You're gonna have another $50 million in this summer.
Anyone else?
I just want to ask Shane if you'd change your mind on the waiver. No. You won't change your mind, even though you realize that it can be done.
Realize what can be done.
That the county prosecutor can represent both of us at this stage.
Oh, absolutely.
At this stage. I'm not saying going any farther, but at this stage, if you signed the waiver, we could go forward without spending more money in the townships and the county.
I will not sign the waiver, but I will not sign the waiver, but I am happy to let the prosecutor represent the
Well, you have to
townships.
sign the waiver to do that, if that's my understanding.
Everyone would have to sign the waiver, all
Okay.
15.
And are you the only one that won't sign the waiver?
I think I was just the first one that read the document.
It's my understanding, Mike and Holly, you both will sign the waiver?
I never got that far to decide.
Yeah, my first
Okay,
reaction.
I misunderstood that because someone had told me that you two had gone ahead with the waiver. It was okay with you, but Shane did not.
We never had any discussion. We got the email, and Shane fired his question back to the prosecutor's office regarding losing that, which is a concern that I have underlined on mine, of losing that and that right of confidentiality if he was representing both groups.
That's
on opposite
understandable, but
sides.
at this point, there's no litigation
Right,
between
at
us
this
and you.
point, there is none. And a question I had, and Derek had to leave, I did ask Josh the other day, because I had highlighted, because I really don't know who was conflicted and who was not of trustees in townships. But if a trustee was conflicted and didn't vote on to intervene because of being conflicted out on the topic, are they still eligible to sign this, or is that now taking us to 14 or 13, but I never got an answer on that. Because I don't know who was conflicted out.
I guess at this point, we'd have to put that to Derek, and then
Yeah,
Derek
because
would
I
have
would
to explain that to the trustee that may not sign it.
Yes, because does that mean that eliminates one from the count, or would that be one, so it's a null and mute point on whether,
It's too bad he had to leave because there were questions here that be answered. So
Yeah,
guess
but I
we'll
did
move
ask Josh
forward
that the
on
other day, so I'm
But I
guessing
would
that's-
really suggest that you ponder the fact that you're the only one or two that possibly would be holding this up. And why would we want to spend taxpayer money, and why would you want to spend taxpayer money for council at this point? It's not necessary
That's if you're
at this point.
if
Now,
you're
in the
intervening.
future,
If
it
you're
may be,
intervening.
and I understand that. But at this point, it's hard for Pleasant Township because we have 3 windmills going up. How do we justify going in with Adams Township and Eden Township and several other townships and hiring attorneys at a fair share when we have 3 windmills going up? I mean, to me, it really creates a problem for all of us, and it could be solved by everybody signing the waiver at this point. Now, I'm not saying that if litigation comes up in the future, then all bets are off.
This is a judicial proceeding. I mean, there is an administrative judge
I understand
that
that, and
proceeds.
you understand that,
and there's
but it is a
attorney-
technical point.
Yeah, but it is a legal proceeding with attorneys representing. So, and this is not uncommon for us. We just had a situation where different county agencies were lined up against each other and everybody got special counsel. So it's not uncommon to us. It's uncommon between the township and the trust and the county. But you know, my first reaction when Stacy told me about it was, well, I'm going down. Maybe Josh and I can ride together. That's fine. It's, you know, so I don't have a problem intrinsically with the prosecutor representing. What I have a problem with is waiving our rights as a county. It's my duty to continue to protect the county and its rights to have you know, confidential conversation with counsel and have attorney-client privilege. So,
But here's
I won't sign the waiver.
But here's the thing,
Again,
Dave.
Shane, there's no litigation here.
Look,
The next phase of this goes to the Supreme Court.
To the point that Commissioner Thomas made regarding a previous conflict, that was pure litigation on a child custody case.
Correct. I
Very,
understand
very
that.
unsimilar to the discussion that we're having now. So it is not a point to be made, at least in my humble opinion. Secondly, our prosecutor, to his point, said he doesn't have a problem representing both constituencies, both political subdivisions, as long as we waive it. You're not going to get that kind of advice from counsel if he has a real concern at this time.
Then why would he give us the waiver, Mike?
Well, because he says he is willing to represent both sides, but in order to do so, he needs a waiver.
Correct.
Very simple, logical explanation.
Procedural issue.
Yeah, it's
There's either a conflict or there's not. If he needs a waiver, there's a conflict.
No, I think you're wrong.
Well,
Shane.
the waiver is to waive the conflict, because it is simple representation. Yes, sir.
Ethan Hepp, Adams Township. So basically, my understandings for this intervention is both parties are gonna intervene. He's basically gonna formally speak for the both parties. Is there gonna be secrets being shared? If there is, there's a problem, but I don't see any secrets being shared.
There are secrets.
Dalton, you have something you'd like to say?
Sure, yeah. So I'm the wind guy. I'm with Apex. Now, this intervention process is not a reading of opinions. There's cross-examination involved. There's witness testimony involved, and so we can call anyone who's intervening to the stand and cross-reference anything that's stated. And so I think that's part of the issue with the county prosecutor being present is we will cross-examine him as well in that intervention proceeding. And so any representation he makes in the intervention process, he cannot make on the opposite side of the board.
But will the power companies, the alternative energy companies have counsel there?
Yes.
They'll have significant counsel there? I mean, there'll be more than one person, a law firm or some guys coming to represent the pro-wind folks?
We at Apex will be represented.
Okay. Who will be there to represent the anti-wind folks? Anybody have any idea?
I believe there's Mr. John Stock. That's an attorney representing some folks. Intervening as attorney.
The anti-wind group has an attorney hired?
Is that true, Chris?
Individually.
You've hired the attorney?
Individually.
You've hired the attorney personally?
Yeah, he's working individually with us.
Okay.
Not as a group.
He is representing the intervening group, correct? I know there's an intervening group of landowners in opposition to the wind project represented solely by this gentleman. To what as per I'm aware.
Are you aware of we talked about Chillicothe, what county was that? Are you aware of that situation down there at all?
Champaign.
Champaign County, thank you.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
It's a different wood project down there. Yeah, they
Okay.
would battle after, what I gather, just like I say, I talked to the assistant prosecutor just to, once we, as township-wise, got the letter and stuff, to do fact-finding and gathering information as to what our steps could be with it, because we were pretty, well, thought that, you know, Shane was gonna change his mind. And we had heard that Holly had decided, you'd signed Mike on it, but now we find something different out on that. So basically, with that being said, they've been fighting for like 10, 11 years down there. Started out with 100 wind turbines, they're down to 50. But again, the assistant prosecutor said that, you know, they're representing.
Have any been actually constructed?
And there's been no construction on that.
How long have they been at it? How long
They've been
have
11 years. They've been at it. Like I said, started down and down to 50, and I guess now they're kind of struggling maybe to try to get rid of the power if they do get them constructed. So there's been they've granted them 50, but nothing's broke ground yet in 11 years. So
I'll try to summarize. I mean, in sum, the prosecuting attorney wrote to all of us trustees and commissioners as well, saying that there is an obvious conflict of interest regarding this, but he would be willing to represent both for purposes of saving the county significant money and the township significant money if we would waive the conflict clause. We decided, we decided that some of us would not waive the conflict clause. I don't know, to be fair, whether or not any trustees are out there that would have not done that as well. I mean, there's none
well,
that
this
I'm
is
aware
first.
of.
I guess I don't know about any other townships that, as far as all the trustees have to sign out, we just assumed that it was you guys. That you guys are the ones
That was our
kind of holding up.
understanding, Mike,
Yeah.
that it was just the county
I don't
commissioners
know. I don't know that
It's for all
empirically.
15.
We didn't see that.
Yeah, we didn't see that part of it.
So-
This is the letter that went to all the townships and us on July 24th from the prosecutor.
Is it two-sided?
Yeah.
I printed two-sided.
Is it on the back side where it talks about the trustees?
Got all your signatures.
We saw the
And that's
front
where the
side.
We saw the
waiver
front
of
side,
conflict of
and that's
interest
what,
is, so
yeah.
We saw the
to
front
read the
side, but
waiver,
We
you, yeah,
didn't get the copy of the back.
The backside, no.
yeah,
That's
requires all
exactly right.
15. Unless, that's why I asked the question about if they're conflicted.
Very
Because that
quickly,
seems like they
please.
should.
We're
I don't know that much about laws, but why couldn't this be put on the ballot and let the people in
Well,
Seneca
I wish,
County?
it's a good question. We beat that horse dead.
Call Representative Reineke.
Yeah. There is no referendum, there is no path to referendum for this because it was brief past law. I think, you know, there may be a petition drive you could do and get a certain percentage of people, but I don't want to give you any false hope. I don't know if that's true or not true because we sure looked at it every way. My position originally was, let's make it a referendum. Let's get a vote on it, but that wasn't possible according to the folks I talked to. So,
I
yes.
have a question. My name's Kelly Miller, and I live on East State Route 19, and I am just now learning about all of this. And you're talking about conflict of interest, and my question is, how many of the people who get to vote whether to approve this or not have monetary gain personally in
No.
this? Nobody.
Prosecutor advised them that they should not intervene positively or negatively if they have any leases signed. To date, I don't know, Dave, you can help me, Bill. To date, I don't know that any trustee, none of us have a conflict. I don't know if any trustees that have signed leases have voted in the process. I don't think so. I think they've all abstained, but I may be wrong. Prosecutor advised them they shouldn't.
Basically, they could, the way we were kind of told is, you can vote to intervene, but when it comes down to decide which direction you're going to go, that's where, as far as the township aspect, which.
Because I know there's a problem with Adams,
Yes.
because two of the
Well,
gentlemen.
no, not
Thompson.
Thompson.
Two of the gentlemen have leases, so only one can vote, one wants to intervene negatively, but procedurally, you can't have one vote.
Correct.
So did you have a
That's why there's not 18.
time to explain that to us, this intervention thing?
Trying to explain the last part of it.
The intervention thing, what's actually going on at this?
Well, the Ohio Power Siting Board has a meeting coming up. It's a formal hearing. And, you know, it would give us, first of all, give the county commissioners guidance if a certain percentage of the townships actually wanted to intervene negatively. I think it would give us a sense more as to whether there's a positive or negative support of the project. It just simply means that you want to be a party to the suit or party to the conversation so that you can voice your opinion. When you intervene, you're not necessarily intervening negatively or positively unless you state that. You just want to say, I want to have a voice. Is that right, Dalton, or you want to add to
Yes.
that? Okay. Yes.
Real quick, Mike. So what I'm understanding is in our township meeting last night, our trustees were told that they were not allowed to intervene with the project. It would not, they could not vote one way or the other in Eden Township.
Because?
To intervene, because of a letter that they got.
Can you say, I can't see who's back there.
Ed Clark, Ed Clark.
Oh, Ed.
There you go. Now we can see
Ed
it.
Clark, Eden Township?
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
And that's what they said last night at the meeting, was they could not go one way or the other with to intervene because of a letter that they had received.
Who would they receive a letter from?
I'm not sure who it was from.
He said Derek.
You remember?
He said Derek Devine.
You said it was from Derek. So
Because we had guys that were interested that had land leases.
we got
Let
some
me-
guy, we got at least one, possibly two, that might intervene with the project.
Well, and that project isn't as far along in the process as the Apex project, so I don't think they've been asked about having to submit the deadline according to the Ohio Power Siting Board to have intervention.
I understand that, but still, that we could put that motion on the table at this point.
I don't know if they could. They might have to redo it. I don't know what that deadline is, the window is with the Power Siting Board. I'm not them.
It's a very specific
Dalton might
timeline.
know
I
that.
can offer some. You enter an intervention process like halfway through your review with the Power Siting Board. For the Seneca Wind project that covers part of Eden Township, their intervention window I don't believe is open yet. But that will, and you'll be notified when it does, and then you'll also get a notification of when that will close.
Yeah, there was some, when you have panels that have more than one person, you have a conflict and only one can vote. You know, what we're being told is that you can't vote either way because you only have one vote. It seems to me that there's got to be some type of a substitute vote or some type of procedural matter that you could.
Well, Mike, actually, on that point, I
Yes,
have
go
got
ahead.
legal opinion as
Okay.
of yesterday on that subject, because in my opinion, I felt that was violation of my constitutional
Right.
rights, because my voice is not heard. And basically, the explanation to me is the individuals can band together and can intervene as a group. The example that Dalton talked about with
Okay.
Mr. Stock, that is a group of citizens that is intervening. And so people from these townships where the trustees can't vote, that doesn't keep the citizens from the
Okay,
townships
that makes sense.
intervening. It's
Do
just
they
a
have to have
different
formal-
process you go
Do
through.
they have to have a formal organization or can it just be the group of folks?
I'm not sure what the process is, but if we just use the example like in Mr. Stock example, you know, different groups can band together. They have to have legal counsel, et cetera, to make that happen.
Gotcha.
And with that being said, from what I've gathered, because through the years of this process, as in Township, that we've always told the people, you have the power siting boards here, and the group did. And this is all just kind of reading, and I'm trying to insert, you know, kind of what I've gathered, just reading what's been on the power siting board. But, so the group of people have hired John Stock to represent them from, I think, Adams Township, maybe some Mississippi or whatever, for that. That's a great way to intervene, because basically the intervention was done, had to be submitted by June for the Apex project, as far as the formal intervention.
Formal intervention of county representatives like township trustees.
Yeah,
But
that
it's
was
still
in
open
June.
for the
For the
community.
public, for
Yes.
the public part of it. Actually, the formal intervention is, that window's kind of closed for the county.
For officials, yes.
Yes, okay. So basically, and then if on July 3rd, you guys have filed against basically a group of people saying some of them are just right on the edge of the project and stuff and trying to basically squash anything that they want to say as far as the formal intervention part. Is that correct?
What we've done is offer up a rebuttal for the initial post. Of course, we've got our legal representation working as well. And so it's good for us and for the OPSB to have an understanding of where this is coming from.
And that was rebutted also.
Yep, and then, right, and you guys followed through.
So
with that.
we've begun the back and forth.
Exactly. So,
The other thing that I should mention is that this is discussion about intervention is really talking about the October 15th meeting in Columbus, which is a judicial proceeding. There is an October 2nd meeting for those of you who are in the Republic Wind Project and you want to comment. It's at the Green Springs VFW. There, you don't need legal representation there. You come and say your thoughts to the board at that time. So even though that's not part of the intervention process, it's your opportunity to have a say, and that's what the citing process calls for. So mark your calendars for that as well. Yes.
You were gonna, say some comments after he had spoken, I was just wondering.
Yes.
Where Derek got them, what else?
As far as the notification and being aware, I think it's important to note that Republic Wind, Seneca Wind are following the process established by the state of Ohio and the Ohio Power Siting Board. So if you have a issue with that process, that requires a legislative fix. Talk to Rep. Reineke, talk to Senator Burke, and say, I didn't know about this until it was well underway, and there needs to be reform. I think that's a conversation that we can all generally agree on, is if we've gotten to this point of divisiveness, clearly the process isn't robust enough. So that was one thing I was going to mention to you. The other thing that I was going to mention was that from a commissioner's standpoint, there's not an up or down vote on these projects. Holly and I haven't leased any land, we haven't built any turbines, we haven't raised any money. So, it's private landowners, private companies. 2011, the alternative energy zone was put in place, and the two projects that we're talking about today are under that process, and it really essentially speaks to some protections to the county and the tax structure. So there's a little bit of a misperception that you can ask the commissioners to just say no and these projects go away. Nothing could be farther from the truth. So those were
one comment I'd like to make that I think puts this in perspective in terms of the frustration of the citizens group with the lack of information. And I'm going to pick on you a little bit, Shane.
That's okay, Greg.
I watched a video where you testified in Columbus a year ago, June. And one of the comments that you made in that video was that you got unanimous support in Seneca County. Of course, this would have been with the Republic Wind project. I remember you specifically said you hadn't had a single person in opposition in your office. That was a quote.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward a year, all of us did not find out about this till we got the letter from the attorney late March informing us of a public information meeting on April 17th. That was our first clue. Now, my head hasn't been in the sand for all these years. I knew there was turbine leases. I knew there was turbine talks about wind farms, but I didn't know the magnitude. But after the public meeting, and finally we're starting to see some information. By the way, the April 17th meeting is specific to the Seneca Wind project, not Republic Wind. That's when you first start to see the maps. And that's when I find out that I've got 19 turbines within 1.5 miles of my house. And so, I did not have prior information. And so when you talk about what's broken the system, that's just fundamentally wrong. And I guarantee you, you can't say what you said a year ago because you got tons of people opposing you now. Right. And that's the fact of the matter. And we've got to work on that.
Yeah, and for the full disclosure, Greg and I have gotten to know each other much better in the last couple months than we ever thought we should. But I appreciate Greg's thoughtfulness on all these issues. One of the things that I would say though is when I ran, I knocked on over 2,000 doors, and I knocked on doors in every village, town, and township in Seneca County, and it came up once. And it was a positive person that said, hey, this is happening. I agree the system's broke and that people weren't aware, but when I made those comments, they were absolutely true. But I agree that there's been a change since that time. So,
Commissioner Stacy Gibson.
Speak. His hand went up.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to make a statement regarding a few things that have been said and alluded to, et cetera, is that it comes down to property rights. So when they started talking to owners of property back in 2008, 2009, I don't know when that was. It's been a long time ago. I've heard the phrase 10 years many times. The companies have changed names, not the same companies that was doing those things then. So in 2011, and not just on the day they voted on it, prior to that, the Board of Commissioners started talking about the alternative energy zone, because they know that there's individuals out there looking at this, and I I believe wholeheartedly, I can't speak for them, I'm not going to try to, they acted as a group, but they wanted to protect the county. And they liked the package that the AEZ brought to the county if this type of energy, not just wind, any type of energy projects are gonna come to fruition. And as we heard from David about all the robust things going on in economic development, this is an opportunity of economic development that happens out in the rural area. I'm sure that entered the minds of things going on then too. Different fiscal scenario for the county then than it was now, as in 8, 9, and 11, all been different years. So that's one thing I just gotta say, when you think about those property rights, that's between that landowner and that company, that's a business transaction and a business deal. The county was stepping in to say, these things are going on, what do we need to do? Because there is a state process for this that otherwise is giving them the boxes to check off, the studies to do, so that they're really pretty much taking care of all the, a lot of the negative things that we hear about wind. They have a process to go through to make sure those things aren't happening or can't happen. Then the other thing, representation of the county, asking why we're elected, why we ran, who we serve. We serve all citizens of the county, and there's no way that we know exactly who did or didn't vote for us, and that's irrelevant. Our job, once we're here, is to serve the county in the best of our ability, but the best information that we have, and that's what all of us do.
So, real quick, if I may, Chris Zeman, Adams Township.
Wait, Chris.
No, let him go.
All right,
Yeah.
Chris, go.
I'm from. Real quick, the AEZ, and I know we've gone back and forth on this thing too. That $9,000 is worth way more in 2011 than it is worth now. And technologies have changed, and obviously the turbines are much larger. I mean, you know, Van Wert isn't near what ours are going to be. So I think, you know, that's something to look at here as far as the technology changing, and then of course the money. You know, you guys could individually take control and then demand more monies. You know, you'd be able to ask for more for these technologies and things like that because of what they're going to do. Because $9,000 now may be worth $5,000, you know what I'm saying? So, and we need to look at that. And furthermore, you know, the schools are going to become dependent on this money. We all know what happens when schools get dependent on money. You know, they spend it. And then if they...
For our kids.
Right, for our kids, correct. I'm
For
not
10 years.
disputing that. I have no problem with schools getting income. I use the public schools, I use the busing. That's fine. But, you know, the residents that are opposed to this may stop voting for levies because they're aware this money's coming. And Holly, you can't predict the future. I can't predict
but I
the
can tell you,
future.
cite you examples of some wonderful things school districts have done in Ohio counties.
Okay, well,
with
we're
this
talking,
money above.
okay, so anyway, this is one of the things that I have a concern about and needs to be looked at. So, I'm sorry, real quick, you know, on the property rights issue, you know, I would appreciate it if Shane and Holly, if you guys, at the very least, stay neutral on the setback situation, because in my mind, now, you know.
There's been no more discussion on the setbacks.
That's fine,
Since
that's fine.
Mr. Reineke stated his position.
Okay, that's all I'm asking for, because you know, we talk about the property rights of the farmers, I respect theirs, but now mine are getting stepped on. So I have a right for mine too. It's a twofold issue. So that's all I'm asking, is that at least neutrality be respected, so that way we can take on our fight, they can take on their fight, and what the power setting board needs, you know, does what they need to do.
Okay,
So, anyway,
Commissioner Thomas,
that's what I'm talking about.
we're on a hard break, as they say in the radio business. So I'm going to adjourn the meeting. You're welcome to stick around, have a conversation if you like. Chris, have you got something real quick?
Real quick, do you guys plan on intervening and hiring a lawyer to
We haven't had
represent?
that conversation yet.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, with that, you're adjourned.